everybody, and welcome back to another video. So, many months ago, I decided to do a tier list ranking the different Wings of Fire characters. And well, looking back on it, I've truly realized how many characters that list left out, so I thought that it's time for a redo that actually does feel as complete as possible. But before I begin, a huge shout out to my patrons. 3 Moons or 𝙈𝙤𝙍𝙁𝙍. Thank you both so much for supporting me. Links to their social medias are in the description down below. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the video. Alright, so I have relatively the same tier as the last time. We have absolutely amazing, awesome, pretty good, decent/neutral, not very good, I hate you, if you were on fire and I had water, I'd drink it, and just simply don't know enough about the character to judge. And I was not lying when I said that this one has a lot more characters than before. And this is going to be quite a long video, so grab some popcorn, and here's my ranking. First up, we have Burn. I really love Burn. Burn and Blaze are probably my 2 favorite of the 3 Standing Sisters. I just love them so much. I'm going to have to put her in Awesome. Next, we have Abalone. We don't know too much about Abalone, except he did try and do the best job possible in order to save Coral's egg, and I feel really bad for him, so I'm gonna say pretty good, even though we didn't get an insane amount of information about his character. What we saw showed that he was a pretty good dragon, and I actually liked him. Belladonna. Interesting. I think some of the writing for her character is really good, other parts not so much, but, I mean, you're supposed to hate her, that's how she's written. This shows she's written well in that respect. I'm gonna say neutral/decent, though. I'll give her that. I mean, I wouldn't say she's, like, poorly written of a character, necessarily. In some ways, again, she kind of is, but I'll leave her at decent/neutral. I don't have too many opinions about Belladonna. Next, we have Addicts. I hate Addicts. I hate you so much. And I would put him a little bit lower in the fire tier, except that he did have a reason for trying to kill Sunny. We didn't see it too much, but he wanted to get his family back, you know, with everything going on in the war. I can understand in some way, but how he went about it, I cannot support. I'm really mad that he did that to Sunny, because I love Sunny. So I'm putting him in the hate tier. Next we have Admiral. Ooh, I don't know what to think about Admiral. Even when we read about him in The Lost Continent, I still don't know what to think. I don't have an opinion on him yet, so I guess I'm gonna go with decent/neutral. I haven't thought of anything really that I'd put him as. I'm not quite sure how I feel about him yet. He's a really interesting character. Next we have Albatross. I love Albatross. I know he is really underrated, but from what we got to see in Darkstar Legends, I quite enjoyed it, and he's a really fascinating character overall. Next we have Anemone. I don't know how I feel about Anemone, so I'm gonna put neutral right now, kind of like a mix of decent and neutral, because I love Anemone in The Lost Heir, for the most part, and then after that, I just don't like what happened with her character. Every decision she made just felt really out of character, and I wasn't too fond of it. So I'm leaving her there for now. Again, another character I don't know quite how to feel. Next we have Arctic. Arctic was written super well, which is why I hate him. Now, obviously as a dragon, he'd be way lower on the list, but as a character, I would say he's pretty good, to be honest. I like the way he was done in the books. Ōklet. I love Ōklet. I'm gonna also put her pretty good. I know a lot of people aren't fond of the baby dragonettes, like the little ones. I actually quite liked all of them for the most part. Ōklet was adorable, and I loved all the scenes we got to see of her. Next we have Battle Winner. Wasted opportunity of a character, but I'll still put her at decent/neutral, since I did enjoy a little bit of her, for the most part. But there were some things I'm kind of like, from a writing standpoint, could have been done better, which made her less of an interesting character in some ways, and really interesting in some others. So for now, I'm going to leave her here, but she's another character I don't really know how to rank, necessarily. Next, we have Chameleon. Chameleon is probably one of my favorite villains in the series. He's just really fascinating overall, and I loved every part we got to see. I hope Chameleon gets some kind of redemption. I know it's would make sense now with how things are going, but I love Chameleon. I'm putting him super high. And we have Blaze, another one I'd put at awesome, especially in the Winglet we got to learn more about her, but even just what we got to see in Arc 1, she was a really great character, and she stood out amongst the 3 sisters. although Burn will probably be my favorite. I'm sorry, Blaze fans, but I'd say, you know what, I'd say I like them both equally. Blister's the one I don't really care for as much. And speaking of Blister, I have conflicting opinions, because I think she's a really fascinatingly complex character, and some of her traits are super good, super well written. But then other things, I just never got attached to her. I never did. The only time I really did, there are only 2 standout scenes I can think of with her in it, and that would be with when she was manipulating Coral, in that specific scene where she was meeting the Dragonets of Destiny, and in the Assassin Winglet during her appearance. Those are the only 2 Blister scenes that really, stuck with me. So I don't think it's a good thing for one of the main villains of the first arc. But I will say, I have kind of neutral opinion about her. I don't know what to think, because some ways, that seems to be the case with these characters. There's some things about her that I actually enjoyed, and there are other ones that I'm like, not necessarily the writing, in some ways kind of is the writing. I cannot put into words really how I feel about Blister, and I'm not sure how to describe it. Bullfrog. I liked Bullfrog when we got to see of him. I know his appearance was very minimal in the Flames of Hope, but he was an all-around good character. He was solid. I liked him a lot. And there are some particular scenes which I related to him so much, just like I do with Turtle. Bumblebee. Doesn't even take a thought. Absolutely amazing, one of my favorite characters. Might be controversial, but I love her so much. Bumblebee was probably the standout of the Poison Jungle for me, in popular opinion. But anytime she was on the page, I just would get super excited. And so say, Bumblebee said, or Bumblebee babbled, I would get so excited. Oh my goodness, she brings me so much joy. I love her. Next we have Cadell. If you're on fire and I had water, I'd drink it. All the stuff you did to Cricket and Caddy did. Goodbye. You're out. Don't need to say anymore. Carnelian. I loved her character person. I'm putting her super high. A lot of people forget about her, and I'm sad she wasn't in the series as much as she could have been. She had so much potential as a character. Before we got to see, Carnelian was so complex, and I really, really like that. We need more dragons like it in the series. Clearsight is one that I really enjoyed, and the reason why she's not higher on the list is because I loved her in Darkstalker Legends, but in the prologue to The Lost Continent, Clearsight felt very out of character. Maybe it's just me, but she forgot about Darkstalker real quick. That's why in my What If Clearsight never met Sunstreak, I kind of have that lingering sense of guilt with Darkstalker, even though it wasn't her fault, and having to stop him and how she felt about him. I really had it linger with her in the story, and it has an impact on it. And I'm kind of sad we didn't get to see that. We know Clearsight talked about Darkstalker to Sunstreak, but we never really get to see it from her perspective, or even in other dragons. Cliff. I know a lot of people love Cliff, and he has some iconic lines and scenes that he was present in, but out of the baby dragonets, I would say he's my least favorite. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say not very good, but I would not say he's bad. So don't think I'm calling Cliff bad. There are just some moments where I'm kind of like, he's a little bit too annoying for my taste in majority of scenes, but I wouldn't put him incredibly low. I wouldn't say he's a bad character by any means, just not one I personally cared for. Next we have Cobra. Again, do I need to explain myself? No. Another terrible parental figure in Wings of Fire. Yeah, this one, really, Cobra was terrible. Do I even need to explain myself? Ooh, Cobra Lily. I liked her. Even though we didn't get to see too much, I'm putting her in pretty good because she had a lot of sass to her, and she was an overall really interesting character. Plus, she was super fun and a different kind of Leafwing that we had gotten to see up to that point. So, I love Cobra Lily. Definitely one of the Leafwings that stood out to me the most. And Coral. I'm gonna say decent/neutral. I think how she's written, in some ways, okay, I said sometimes. In some ways, she's written really well, and in some ways, she completely contradicts herself and changes several times, which is kind of a writing flaw in the series. Coral just constantly changes back and forth, get no time to breathe, no reason for her changing at all, so she's a little bit all over the place at some points, and different moments it is explained, other moments you can't even really have any kind of reasoning to it, So I'd put her for that reason, and just in general, her character is not supposed to be that great in the books, so I guess that's written really well in that respect. And then Dune. I love Dune so much. Actually putting him in awesome. Dune was my favorite of the Guardians. Even though he did not last long in the books, seeing him in Prisoners was so awesome as a fan of the character. They really did him well in that winglet. And they really humanized Dune as well. Next we have Dusky. I'm conflicted with this character, if I'm gonna be honest, because I loved him so much at first, but then his kind of creepy comments about, like, wanting all humans to die threw me off, and it felt kind of out of character. There should have been some kind of build-up to that, at least. It felt kind of odd, to say the least, so I'm not sure how I feel. If there was kind of an in-between tier between pretty good and decent/neutral, I'd put him there. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and put it in pretty good, but some of those switches, they felt kind of off to me. Next we have Crocodile. Barely know anything about her, waste opportunity of a character. I'm going to say if she was on fire and I had water, I'd drink it, because she's a traitor and a terrible dragon. And she died, rightfully so. Next we have Crystal. We don't know a ton about her, but she seems like a good character from what we have learned in The Dangerous Gift, so I'd put her a little high. I mean, kind of debating on don't know enough, but we get to see a decent amount, so I'd say pretty good. I don't have any bad feelings about her at all. Darkstalker. Depends which Darkstalker we're talking here. If we're talking Legends Darkstalker, awesome, amazing character. But if we're talking about Arc 2 Darkstalker, which he appeared in the most, unfortunately, there's a total change. They feel like almost two different characters in some ways. I don't know. I really don't know. I've been vocal about this before, that I do not like Arc 2 Darkstalker. He felt really weird compared to the version we did get to see at first. I will say, awesome, purely for Legends Darkstalker, not Arc 2 Darkstalker. I may make a video on that before. I've talked about it on my community tab and stuff. I'm quite open about the fact that Arc 2 Darkstalker comes off quite differently than his Legends counterpart. Next we have Dazzling. I don't remember much about the Rainwing Queens in the Hidden Kingdom, besides like the ones we got to see like a lot of, I guess. So I'm just gonna put her in don't know enough. Deathbringer. As a character, I wasn't a huge fan of him at first, but I've grown to like him a little more. He's grown on me a bit. I would say, another character bordering between pretty good and decent/neutral. I'm pretty neutral on him in general. Didn't stand out to me incredibly much, but I can understand why people like him, so I'll leave him there. I don't have any, like, negative thoughts about him at all. Okay, Diamond. She was on fire and I had water. I drink it 100%. Diamond is a terrible queen and a terrible dragon. Oh my goodness. But she did a great job making us hate her, even if she was kind of stale. That's how Ice Wings were at the time, I guess, for royalty especially, so. Very harsh dragon. Fruit Bad, another one, don't know enough. Although, in general, I didn't care for them. But Umber! Umber is so underrated. I'm putting him in awesome for sure. More people need to talk about Umber. He'd be such like a great best friend to have. Like, Umber and Link should be like your two like ultimate best friends. And maybe Kikiju as well. Exquisite. I love her only for her sloths. But for every other reason, I would not like her. But I think as a character, we did get to see more of her, same with Magnificent. For the two reigning queens, they're probably the most we got to see of them, of the group. So I'm gonna put her in, decent/neutral. I mean, she's written decently. I was fine with her. Fate Speaker. I am conflicted beyond belief, because my opinions on Fate Speaker change on the daily at this point. When I first read the books, I think I cared for her, and then I stopped caring for her, and then I cared for her again, I stopped, and then now I'm at a period again where I do kind of care for her, especially Fate Speaker. Okay, on the outside, I do not like her, but if you look deep on the inside of her character, in general of how she's written, and, you know, the deep stuff going on within, I like her, from that standpoint. So I will put her in pretty good, even though she's more of wavering between these two tiers. Fathom. Another one I'd also put it pretty good, I guess. Fathom was an interesting character. I love the Legends protagonist for Darkstalker. He was really great. I mean, I've talked about Fathom not that much on this channel, I don't think, but I might have to do a video devoted to him someday. Who knows? It's been a while since I've read Darkstalker, but I did like him, so. Fierce Teeth. Unpopular opinion, but pretty good. So, in the main books, you're not supposed to like her. Even then, I was kind of fascinated by her, just as a character. And then we got the Prisoner's Winglet. I know many people do not like that winglet, but I loved that winglet so much. It made me actually like Fierce Teeth, like, on a way bigger level. Wouldn't say she's one of my favorites at all, but it really expanded upon her, and there's more going on beneath the surface of this complex dragon. Fjord, another one, I just have to write it off as we don't know enough. And Flame, a really misunderstood, underrated, and overhated character. I'm putting him in pretty good. Out of the False Giants of Destiny, Squid and Flame stuck out to me a lot, for sure. I mean, all of them did, except for, like, Ochre, but I wasn't a fan of them at the time when I was reading, but now I've grown to actually really appreciate the False Dragonettes, just as characters. So, Flame was really good. There's another character where there's so much going on within that it's just so fun. It's like, it's awesome to just get to, like, analyze his character, and I hope this isn't the end for Flame, and that we'll get to see more someday. Coconut, I hate. He's just a dragonet, so I'm not going to put him in the tier below it, but he didn't care about Kinkajou going missing. And he's just really lazy, and only cares about food. He doesn't even like coconuts. It's okay, I don't like coconuts either, but it's in his name. Hazel. Hazel is 100% my favorite Leafwing. She stood out to me the most. Leafwings I wasn't as fond of in the past, but I've grown to like them a little bit more, I'd have to say. I'll give him that. But Hazel, man, Hazel stood out to me. I loved her so much. I don't even know how to explain it. She's just definitely the most unique of the Rainwings, of the Leafwings we got to see. So, I loved Hazel. Glacier. I'll give her pretty good. Initially, she kind of seemed a little bit, I was kind of like, oh, what do I think about her? But as time went on, she grew on me. She 100% grew on me, especially with the flashbacks from The Dangerous Gift. Oh my goodness, I wanted to cry. That was a beautiful scene. And Glacier in general, she's shown to really care about her subjects, and she's a really realistic character. Next we have Glory. Okay, I've been vocal about this in the past as well. Book 1 Glory, amazing, stunning, wonderful. But after book 1, I do not like her. I don't know what it is, I just don't like her. She seems to change a lot as a character. And I just wasn't that big on Glory after that. I know the typical Curse of Wings of Fire characters is after their book, like their POV book, then they become less interesting. But for Glory, it happened right after book 1. Like, I wasn't even that big of a fan of the Hidden Kingdom, to be honest. I'm gonna make so many people mad, I'm sorry, but I'm putting her in decent/neutral. I would put her a little bit lower, if not for her history with book 1. Riptide. Boring character, totally forgettable, if not for the Ripnami ship. I'm gonna put him in not very good. I wouldn't say, like, despise him, but he is one of my least favorites. Like, just in general, like, writing, one of my least favorites. Just so boring. And I've talked about Ripnami in the past, but so I won't go on. Granger, I love to death. Oh my goodness, Granger is so awesome. She was one of the original Rainwing Queens. I'd love to see like a winglet or some kind of flashback scene of her just telling like young Rainwing Dragonettes the stories from her past. You know, maybe Granger was involved in some kind of Rainwing battle from a while ago or something like that. Maybe secret kind of thing going on. But I love her so much. I'd love to learn how things were like during her day. Greatness. Greatness is an underrated character. We didn't get to see a lot. I'd still give her pretty good because there's a lot of potential. And from what we got to see, she seemed really nice. So I'll put her in pretty good. Hailstorm/Pyrite. Another one I'll put in really good because the Hailstorm Pyrite story is so utterly fascinating. And I'm glad we got to see something like it in the series. It poses a lot of really good questions, just in general, to really ponder and think about. So, such a really complex whole situation going on. It's interesting to read into, and felt really different from Wings of Fire, to be honest. Now we have Hawker. He was one of the Hive Wings responsible when Luna's about to go through a metamorphosis. I won't judge him. We simply do not know enough. I will not judge him or anything like that. He seems like he could be a fascinating character. Another one we really aren't too knowledgeable about. Io is probably one of my favorite of the Silkwings. I loved her so much. Kind of deciding between awesome and pretty good. I'll leave it a pretty good, but not a bad character by any means, and overall high on my list. She was really good, and a huge standout of the Lost Continent. Probably the only thing keeping me going in that book, even if she wasn't in it for that long. Now we have Hemlock. We don't know a ton about Hemlock, so I also feel like it'd be kind of unfair to judge him. Overall, he seemed like a relatively good dragon, so I don't have anything bad to say, even though he was a little bit bland, but I guess he was supposed to kind of come off that way. Foeslayer/Hope. Overall, I would say she's pretty good. I'd give her that, to be honest. Another one that I'd give that to. Don't have much to say about her, really. I enjoyed her. Although, during Arc 2, she's a little bit weird. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. Just like, she felt a little bit off in most of the scenes. Especially like escaping peril as well. She just like came out of nowhere, and just reappeared through Arc 2. That I didn't like. That's probably why she's not a little bit higher. I don't really know, but during Darkstalker Legends she was good, and by Darkness of Dragons I liked her again. Tundra. Tundra and Narwhal, I will definitely place, and if you're on fire and I had water, I'd drink it. They are terrible parents, the way they compare their children and treat them in general by just being so hard was awful to read about, really. Where are the good parents in Wings of Fire? Why don't they exist besides, like, Six Claws? Okay, we have Icicle, another character that I really liked. I think she deserves a lot more credit, and she's really underappreciated, just in general. I will put her high. I think highly of her. Indigo is another character that I loved as well, just like with Fathom. They're both really well-written characters, and solid overall. Indigo's also a very different seeming from what we got to see a lot of the time, and she had a lot of attitude to her, but she was super brave, and I loved her for that. Jambu! Another character that I really liked. I know some people find him to be a little bit annoying, but he stood out to me probably a lot. I'd say Jambu, Mangrove, and Grandeur stood out to me the most in Orchid as well, in the Hidden Kingdom. Those are probably my favorite parts of the book, to be honest. Jerboa! 100%. Does this even need to be argued? And then her daughter, Jerboa III. I will say she's pretty good. Yeah, I actually really enjoyed what we got to see. She seems like a really good character, and I liked every time we got to see her on the page. She's really fascinating and really different from what we got to see from some other characters, especially Sandwings. And we have Jewel. Oh my goodness, I love Jewel so much. Hesitating between, I'll give her awesome. You know what? Jewel is one of my favorite Hivewings, to be honest. Maybe even my favorite. She was really unique, another one that just stood amongst the other characters from her tribe. Katydid. Ooh. It's been a long time since I've read The Lost Continent, but I think the twist, I'm trying to spoil things in this video. I think the twist with Katydid, I don't know how I feel about it. It felt like it wasn't needed. It just completely was not necessary for the story. I mean, besides, like, a little bit of an origin, but I think it could have been done a little differently in that way. Not a huge fan, but I wouldn't say she's like a bad dragon, just not a huge fan of that, so I'll put her in decent. Kind of forgettable in some ways. And we have Kestrel. Kestrel is another one. I honestly love the Guardians. Kestrel was a really complex character, just probably like, as well as Dune was. And there's so many layers to her character that I could just talk about for hours. Kestrel deserves some more love, and I've been glad to see it recently in the fandom, actually. Gil is a character who has never been done justice. Everything we've gotten to see of him has not been positive, except for in one of the winglets. So we got to see the arena scene, and obviously that wasn't Gil's true self. And then we got to see some of the flashbacks with Turtle. Again, something else is going on, and Gil wasn't really behaving like he normally would. He seemed like a good father from everything we got to hear from other dragons. And the only time we really got to see him at his best was in the Assassin Winglet. Even that was briefly, but I would say I like him. I mean, it's, there's not really much to go off of, but he did seem like a good dragon despite everything else going on. And he did make some mistakes, which really did humanize him. He did get mad. He, had all those things happen to him, so I'd put him high for that reason, especially. Ivy is a character I don't know how to feel about, because I love, like, her whole fascination with dragons and wanting to see dragons and stuff, even if it did feel really random and out of place. Suddenly, like, oh yeah, she loves dragons, by the way. This is difficult. I'm going to say decent/neutral, which I probably will put for Leaf and maybe Ren as well. Not 100% sure. I'll get to them later, though. Lynx. Lynx is the best side character, and Wings of Fire, and nobody convinced me otherwise. She's doing it absolutely amazing, and one of my all-time favorites. Lynx and Snowfall made the dangerous gift for me, okay? They were the two best parts of the entire book. I love them and their friendship so much. Kinkajou is one I would say is pretty good. She's kind of a mix of annoying and adorable, so I have some conflicting opinions, not enough love to put her in awesome. I'm so sorry, but I love Kinkajou just in general. I think she's okay for the most part, even though she's not particularly someone I would be very close to. A little bit annoying for my taste, but not a bad character in general. Lagoon! Another one. Do I need to give an explanation? She was a terrible queen and a terrible dragon, and just so manipulative and evil. Although, she was written actually really well for, a short-lived villain, so. Leaf, again, neutral/decent, not really sure what to think of him. There were some moments where I actually was on Leaf's side, and I think he's the most underappreciated of the Dragon Slayer protagonists. I loved the scene, especially where he was in the Skyrim Palace, captured and all that. That was really interesting, and it's cool to see his progression throughout the book, even if it's kind of rocky at first, and it just suddenly shoots up with some big progression. Like, now, all of a sudden, his perspective has changed. It could have happened a little bit slower. But other than that, overall, solid character. Hawthorne. I know a lot of people love Hawthorne, but to me, he was such a big wasted opportunity. I mean, we didn't get to see much of him. He was never, foreshadowed or anything like that. Wasn't important to the plot that much. Besides, things going on with the other mind. So, and, Wasp and all that. But outside of that, just in general, he didn't do much besides try to kill our heroes. And that's all he did. So, he didn't last long at all. I will put him here. Not really sure. Mandrake. Mandrake is a good character. We don't know a lot about him, but I'd still say he's pretty good. He seemed supportive and not like any of the other Leafwings we had gotten to see up to that point. Listener. Okay, I know people think the Listener's annoying for the most part, but I liked Listener, to be honest. She was another standout character from Darkstar Legends, which is probably one of the best books in the series, and a good side character that really contrasted Clearsight and kind of helped her get out of her shell a bit. And she was not perfect as well. We cannot have totally perfect characters. Listener is a great example of that. Luna. Luna's one where she changes so much. It's just one moment she acts this way, another moment she feels this way, and it's totally different. And not just with her emotions, it's also, during the Flames of Hope, her emotions are pretty, stagnant. They don't really change. But her worldview and perspective, every second it changes. It's like, I cannot keep up. It was so inconsistent. There are some things I loved, and just, I'm wavering here between these two tiers. I'm gonna stick here for now while I talk. But Luna, like I said, just things switch so much, and when we first get to see of her, she seems really interesting, like a totally unique character, and then we cut to her perspective, and she is completely different. And the reasons for it, it's not a smooth, progression into that new mood, new perspective, everything. It's just bam. I know that can happen sometimes in the real world, but in writing, it doesn't come off that well. It just kind of seems like it was rushed, everything, her feelings. We never really get to see too much into that, except in the Flames of Hope, when that's just all we hear. Here's how Luna feels. That book didn't have a ton of action. Luna just kind of sat there. So for those reasons, leading up to it, I liked her. I liked her in the Lost Continent. I thought she was really good. But after the lost content, another one in the first, just like with Valori, first character in the series, in the first book in the arc, really good. After that, just falls down and crumbles to me, honestly. I was originally going to upload this as one big part, but ultimately decided that it would work better as two. So, this Sunday, prepare for the rest of the rankings, because a lot of my absolute favorite and least favorite characters are coming up. It's gonna be good. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!